This is iRacing.
The story of racing that we have had so far this season has been about one driver, and his name has been Togo Hisada. He has been on top, he has been dominant, but the question will be, as we reach the halfway stage of the season, will that stay the same? Or will somebody find themselves coming out of the woodwork to make the all-important challenge? We head to a circuit that puts this car and this track into a match made in heaven. Welcome to Brands Hatch, ladies and gentlemen, for racing action with you on iRacing and the Global Sim Racing channel for your classic Lotus Grand Prix series here, otherwise known as Lotus 79. Jake Sperry, Craig King, bringing you all of the action. And Craig, when it comes to Brands Hatch, it's a track that I think pretty much epitomizes this era perfectly.
When you think about this track and you think about these sort of cars, first thing that comes to my head is Brands Hatch. Those classic moments at some of these corners from the historic racing from those days. This is what the drivers love. They want to feel that classic racing, and this is how they get to experience it.
And they'll experience it when they get themselves through qualifying and into 30 laps worth of racing. But before we do that, if you're brand new to us here with iRacing, the Global Sim Racing channel, you don't know what a Brands Hatch is and why we're racing in a hatch, let's go and give ourselves an understanding of racing with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula One to Formula Ford, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day.
You have got to love Brands Hatch as a track, as we will zoom on in to the southeast of England, Forkham in Kent, and a circuit which has seen it all, has done it all, has been the British Grand Prix when it alternated away with Silverstone, and has been the European Grand Prix in Formula circuits, as we got ourselves in a wonderful track here. Just the 9 turns, the 3.7 kilometers, but a track here that, quite simply, Craig, is one that prioritizes positioning.
Prioritize its positioning due to the narrowness of this track and the way some of these corners, relief apexes, high-speed corners, really do work here. If you're looking for a chance to make an overtake here, it will be down into turn 2, aka Druid Bend. In classic English fashion, every corner named after a driver. Surtees a double apex there into turn 4, and that long down turn into the Hawthorne Hill before you get to Hawthorne at 5 will be a great overtaking spot. Drivers will love how the downforce will respond here. Never did this Lotus in the real world actually win here? The last time a Lotus won around here was in 1972 with Everson Fittipaldi. This is still, though, a car that the drivers love to rack around here.
If I had a dime for every single time a track owned by Motorsport Vision Racing had a corner called Druids on it, I'd have 2 dimes out there, which is not very difficult, but ultimately, it does surprise me how much money I'm making from it. But let's talk about this championship and where we go as Togo Hisada holds a 113-point lead against a very stacked pack that is there trying to get through. Remember, there are drop rounds available in this championship here as part of the F1 drivers standings. James Barry is second with Gernot Frietscher ahead of Taylor Lane, who is not here today, with Kartik Pai in 5th and Shadi Ahmad in 6th position. Gabri Martinez is 7th along with Daniel Gallis in 8th. Then it's JB Master and Ferran Grau, the Andorran, rounding out the top 10. The F2 standings are for those who don't necessarily, Craig, have enough iRating to compete at the very top, but effectively, you're developmental.
Yeah, they are the drivers under 3,000 iRating, and Alex Kessick, don't think he's here this week, but he's currently leading that championship very close, though, with Keith Herner right behind, and then Gorjanov also just holding it up. These guys get points for where they finish in the races. It's like the F1 drivers. So that means Andrew Dixon and Connor Levy are so close in 4th and 5th. And you go all the way down to Steinbild and Samari. These are drivers that you don't usually see in the top split, but you still get to hear their names because this is oh so important. Ben Sommer, probably one of the drivers you usually see. He's here today in the top split. He's down in 9th with Mark Winfield just rounding out that top 10.
And we do have a few teams looking to hold themselves together. It's the Candy Team Tyrrell who are up in front. The team of Hans Sommer and Miguel Morland, 24 points clear of Team Essex Lotus, which is helmed by Gernot Frietscher. Marlboro Team McLaren, 26 points back in the scrap too, with Albilad Williams Racing in 4th, Akit Renault Elf in 5th. And then Unipart Racing Team Ensign in 6th position. Jib Racing are trying to make a little bit of a close-up with Northern Winter in 8th, Scuderia Ferrari finding themselves 9th, and the Vorsteiner Arrows team rounding out the top 10 in category. But if you're here for the first time and you're looking at, well, how good is this race going to be? Well, we've got 30 laps worth of racing action to put on the clock here, but the critical factor is not going to be those 30 laps. It's going to be how aggressively you need to run them. And as we work at the halfway stage of the season, drivers that might prioritize the end of their season with the open setups, the no spare car, and the drive-throughs and the disqualification limits all set as per usual.
And it's going to be interesting because you may see drivers flirt with that drive-through, with how much speed they may forget to take off here from some of these high-speed corners. So that'll be one to keep an eye out on. Qualifying looks like it is over, and Togo Hisada, too, no surprises despite a really bad first lap, taking pole position there away from Dylan Freckleton. It is quite close at the top, Jake, but then you can see the difference between the top 5 compared to the rest of them when we get to those standings.
It's one of those circuits where, because of the technicality of Brands Hatch, you do see wider gaps between them, but qualifying is completed. And as was mentioned there by Craig, Togo Hisada, a 110.705, takes the pole position ahead of Dylan Freckleton, who was the last driver to put his time in. James Barry and Gernot Frietscher are on row 2 with Philip Kunhardt and Carter Lundy making up row 3. It's then Bjorn Ackermann and Kartik Pai, 7th and 8th, with Connor Levy in 9th and Daniel Gallis rounding out the top 10.
Timothy Ree's going to be there in 11th with Andrew Dixon in 12th. Then it's Mickey Friesen trying to get over his birthday yesterday in 13th. Lesson Merrill will be 14th, and Jean-Francis Boscus 15th, with Julius Muller in 16th. Javier Mosquera will take 17th, with Aaron Blair in 18th. Then it's Hans Sommer in 19th, and Isabella Matthews will be 20th.
Mike Rasmus will be in the blackjack position of 21st, and a nice return for Barry West, dealing with infection for the last couple of weeks. He's back to racing 22nd. Ryan Turcott and Alexander Matei are on row 12 with Matthew Cockram and Bruno Araya in 26th, with Gord Chanot and Jamie Wilson 27th and 28th. It leads Kurt Clapper and Ben Summers. 2 cars did not set a time. Not surprisingly to see Jason Clapper not set a time in qualifying, and the other driver was the number 30 courtesy of Javier Garcia, who will be the final driver in the field who hasn't set a time, also representing Club Andorra, or Flag Andorra, here today as we get ourselves set. We got the 2 minutes to grit themselves up, or they can choose to start from pit lane. It is a banked start to the lap, which is often why the short layout of this circuit is sometimes colloquially known as the Indy layout for this circuit, because of course of IndyCar joining and running a race on that shortened layout earlier on. But a green flag drops almost immediately, and it's caught out a car in the back of the field that wasn't alert to it, and we are underway and racing. Togo Hesada with a big launch down Paddock Hill Bend. James Barry jumps Dylan Freckleton, who's in third, and for fourth and fifth, Philip Kunhardt now trying to work here to try and deal with Journo Freacher on the outside. Freacher gets the run down to Graham Hill Bend and gets it sorted. Clear start at the front, but at the back, they weren't very much ready through the fog and the haze.
Yeah, two cars just having a bit of a moment, Araya and Summers, but at the front of the field, it's been very clear and a very surprising moment there. We talk about Hesada not having the best of launches sometimes. Well, the best of launches happened for Freckleton. A big crash in the back of the field with about 4 cars getting caught out, but the leaders are still fine. Jamie Wilson, the first one to take what I believe will be the toe.
Yeah, so that will be the black and orange mechanical flag, which will indicate that you've got to jump into the pits. You've got 4 laps to get in and serve that. It's mandatory, part of the iRacing system. The unicorn of Bjorn Ackermann in 9th position now, working himself through Sterling's Bend and trying to attack and make some progress. In front of him, Kartik Pai. Behind him, Timothy Reed, and the group forming in its initialness behind Connor Levy, who's trying to make some good progress then on the opening lap of this race. But this is about giving yourself momentum to work with. James Barry, who's got a great sense of driving skill. We see him quite a bit here on the on iRacing. When it comes to the likes of the Radicals, he's up in 2nd position, giving good work. But Timothy Reed, good hold there to get around Bjorn Ackermann then, and that moves him up into 9th.
Bit of a mistake there from Timothy for Bjorn Ackermann there. This is Jamie Wilson, and it's coming around the tricky Surtees. They get through Surtees fine, and I think just a little bit of a tap there as the corner started just to climb in, collected with the 29 there. That is Gorgianotte, who we know about. Oh, it was also the cold tires. Just that wobble there was just a little bit of the tires, still not heated up. It's a 21 Celsius track temp, 69 Fahrenheit, so it is a little bit cool out there, and the wind is not going to be helping them, and that might have just been a case of getting a bit too hot early, and those tires say no, no, no.
Well, there's also the massive amounts of torque that go through those chunky rear tyres. There's a reason why that the modern Formula cars that you see out there in the world very much replicate this Lotus 79. This is the forefather when you talk about ground effect, as Alexander Matei then looks to make progress through, and that then is a pass on Barry West to maintain the 21st position out there in this race. And there will be searches about for places each and every single lap, like Javi Mosquera making a launch against Andrew Dixon here. Remember, Andrew Dixon is scrapping out there for the F2 championship and holding his own very nicely there, getting the pass done on the Persona 3 machine.
And especially Graham Hill Bend, very tricky to make a move through there with how it just turns in at high speed and then banks up there, using all the banking you can on the hill. And Mosquera lost another position, going to try and almost Kevin Esther it down onto the grass, and he goes around the outside of Hawthorne. Real good fight back there on Mike Romeus there to get back in. But this is crucial. You cannot be fighting in this section because of how tight it is in this GP section. You start to lose some time. So Mosquera knows he's going to have to get a move on here. The more he fights, the more time they lose. Dixon's already almost a second ahead of them.
Yeah, Mike Rasmus it was who was trying to deal with that battle. Hans Sommer is there just behind, as well as Isabel Matthews trying to figure things out. Togo Hesada with the fastest lap of the race then. That's why he's got the purple check next to his name, which is also next to the interval of what the drivers are behind. But Timothy Reed now, the middle group continues on. He'll be figuring out, well, how do I get past the experience of Kartik Pai, Connor Levy in that group. They've lost a lot of time to the likes then of Carter Lundy, Philip Kunhardt and Journo Freacher, the driver with the most wins in this series all time, as Timothy Reed now figures out the run up over the top of Hawthorne Hill and takes Pilgrim's Drop.
Takes to the drop, and you've got to think that's a double toe. So Pi will also get it from Levy, and look at the understeer there from Timothy. Just a little bit too hot there, not really factoring in that double toe, but he's managed to keep up, and this is where it gets tricky. The downforce, the dirty air, really starting to fight. Drivers flirt with the grass there as they come around the Sheen curve, and Sterling Bend, perhaps my favorite corner on the track with the speed you can carry, as you can just see what the drivers are dealing with in these cockpits. They don't get this much of a view. This is the helmet camera. They'll be a little bit lower down. They will not be able to even see their wheels at the moment. He's just going to be hoping he can find the opportunity.
James Barry responds, then an 11.9 to bring the gap to 0.3 of a second. Look at the aggression on the turn-in of Paddock Hill Bend. You need so much commitment, and it's one of the biggest drops in motorsport. The only thing that compares to Paddock Hill Bend is the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. But for Timothy Reed, he has to keep himself into line, and this is what he's finding as difficult right now here, Craig. The fact that collectively, every straight around this circuit is 100 meters too short for a pass.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why these cars were really fun back in the day. Well, we weren't there back in the day, but you see the old highlight videos, because they had to rely on the downforce through this section to really start making moves. And you see Timothy Reed had a real good run through Hawthorns there. Unable to do much, but if he just kept that up, maybe could have forced an issue on Kartik Pai. Again, would have lost them some time to Conor Levy, but in some respects, you may need to look at that later in the race. They're only on lap 5 of 30. That's one to keep your eye out for later in the race, but you start to see Pi losing a bit of time there to Conor Levy. Timothy will see this. Timothy will get a little bit skittish. He'll want to get past.
Yeah, want to get past pretty soon, I would imagine, here to run through the train and gain that extra position. With Pi can get by, Levy is the next focus out there. It's a case of not driving a Chevy to the Levy, but rather his Lotus 79 at the moment here for Timothy Reed, with Bjorn Ackerman, Daniel Gallis, Mickey Friesen there in 12th position, trying to give a little bit of a hunt at the moment. But for this time being, it's about giving yourself a bit of space, and a lot of the groups now are starting to form as a little pack here and a little pack there outside of your top two. The next pack is Kunhart versus Lundy. We go to James Barry here in second position. Togo Hesada has been all conquering so far this season. Wins at Mosport, a win at Imola, a win at Portland, and looking at Brands Hatch trying to make it a 4th win this season out of 5 starts. The only blemish on the card so far, Mangi Kaur.
You could say that blemish is kind of akin to what the Yokozunas had to deal with the Grand Sumo this weekend, in the last 2 weeks. But he's trying to emulate a Koto Nowaka, who managed to win the championship this time. Granted, he's not a high up-ranked person. Togo is that high driver. He's looking to really crank on and make that first championship he needs. But look at the late braking from Barry. That could be crucial later in the race, because we talk about, or I talk about all the time, Togo Hesada, the king of the late breakers. If Barry can actually match Hesada's braking, it's just going to take him to be side by side to force that issue, and we may be looking at a chance for him to take the win. What this is now is Hesada just playing patience driving here. He's playing it smooth. This is how he loves to drive. When it gets late in the game, you know that he will start to turn it up more.
It's 30 laps. There's no pit stops, which should no scheduled pit stops to allow any dramas out there. As Jean-Francois Boscus now in a scrap. This is Julius Muller. He's trying to get by, but Muller gets the run down Pilgrim's Drop, and Boscus is the one who has to sit back and try and figure out, can I get to the inside? 3 consecutive right-hand bends. This is the second of them, Westfield, and then you're heading through Dingledale up into the Sheens curve here, this very fast right-hand corner, and now they're starting to get Andrew Dixon onto the back, and the likes of Mike Rasmus as well, who joins the fray. Dylan Freckleton now with the fastest lap of the race, and they will know that so long as they keep themselves battling, they've got chances. Look at the effort there by Timothy Reed. He'd waited about 6 laps to find that pass, and finally unlocks it at Paddock Hill Bend.
That might be the champagne cork bottle coming out there. Reed needed that on Kartik Pai to really catch up to Conor Levy, and maybe when you look at the time as well, matching Carter Lundy from behind, but look at this train of cars. This is Levy, Reed, High, Ackerman, Gallus, Friesen, Merrill's just in the background. They're trying to catch up to it. This is how much it mattered, because Pi was holding up, not on purpose, but Pi was holding up a little bit, these drivers. Unfortunate what could happen. Now, going to start to move. Can report in the background. Andrew Dixon had a really good start to the race. He's going down the order. He's had a moment out there.
Yeah, there's an apology over the radio from Andrew Dixon, so it's clear that he's been involved in it, and it was a case of Dixon with, and double troubles then going through. So Rasmus and Dixon having a moment going into Surtees' corner, and then as Andrew Dixon tries to turn in, 3 wide they were going by the slow Dixon. It was Turcotte on the outside, and on the inside causing the chain reaction was Jason Clapper.
Yeah, Jason Clapper. Unfortunately, the Jason Clapper special not on today, as he likes to start from the back to see how far he can go. And it's going to be 30th for him today. He'll only make up 1 spot after what happened, but Barry still looking. And the lap times are almost identical here. An 11.992 for Barry, a 12.091 for Hesada. He's slightly faster, but that means nothing at this stage of the race. He needs to match. And they also need to keep their eyes on those times that Freckleton's setting. He's got the purple tick right next to his name. He's been the fastest car. Wasn't that fast last time, but if they keep keeping their eyes on that, he might catch up later in this race if he can keep those tyres cool.
The key here is that there have been no throws of attacks or searches to the inside. It's been very much on the racing line and close, but close hasn't quite cut the mustard so far for James Barry. He can only sit and wait. Bjorn Ackerman now losing out the top 10 position. Daniel Gallus now finds himself through there with Mickey Friesen sitting on the back. So Daniel Gallus with a move and getting that one done around the outside into turn 5. But here comes the chance around the outside at Paddock Hill Bend. You can cross them over if you take that wide entry. You can attack down the hill a lot quicker and use that momentum back up into turn 2 at Druids. But Ackerman just isn't close enough. Daniel Gallus has it covered.
Yeah, I think it was just a case of he could not turn into that camber that you've got, that de facto camber you've got due to the hill on Paddock Hill, and was unable to really make that work for him, so he had to stay back. They've got Friesen, they've got Merrill behind. Friesen, the camel driver. Whoa, Ackerman, get calm on the throttle there for a moment. Friesen looking to try and rectify a bad race yesterday in the IMSA Vintage. He's trying to basically go, I might have not had a good birthday yesterday. I'd really like a good first day of my new year that I'm celebrating, because otherwise it's not going to be a good start to this year.
No, it certainly won't. If you start on the wrong foot, it's as a means to go on as they run up through, and we work then with the unicorn car of Bjorn Ackerman. That's a mistake through the middle of the corner. Has to have some correction through the middle as fastest laps, 1, 2, 3, all ticked through. Hesada, Barry, Freckleton as they went through. Ackerman now trying to get the run out then through the Jim Clark curve there at Clearways, and will once again move to the outside against Daniel Gallus, trying to make this move, and Ackerman just has no confidence to turn the car in, and now has to yield once more the position.
So now you got to think to yourself, how do you make that move work now? You've got to think, I'm getting side by side on the outside so much, you can't really outbrake a driver there. You're going to have to match him. You're going to have to work with him. Like these guys, they're kind of working together at the same time. At the same time that they're also trying to fight each other, because you see these 4 drivers just in together. One mistake from these guys at the front of this queue, they're going to be losing 3 spots at the end of this moment. So they're going to have to hope that, keep it calm, keep it tidy. But maybe if you're Mickey Friesen right now, you're licking your lips.
I'm hearing the sound of the Eagles of Death Metal, because Miss Alyssa is on the back right now, and Alyssa Merrill will want to get through all 3 of them, Friesen, Ackerman and Daniel Gallus, as quickly as possible out there. Togo Hesada, another fastest lap. Troubles as well for Bruno Araya in this race, and Jason Clapper officially now 3 laps down and out of the race. So that will be the 3rd retirement then from this one so far. Friesen continuing to stay close, but right now it's about keeping yourself settled. You've had the first third of the race already. That's your greeting card moment of handing out who you are. Now you settle down in and go right down to business.
Down to business. And I'll tell you what, I think Bjorn Ackerman's being a little bit too hard on that throttle right now. I think he might have the lead plate that's in my racing shoes, because having a little bit of moment coming out some of these slower corners. We saw it last time out of Surtees, he had a moment. He just had a moment out of Druid where the rear of the car started twitching, and that's a sign of putting too much throttle down, spinning the wheels in these Lotus 79s. Remember, they don't really have traction control. ABS was created back then. They're going to have to do this naturally with an H pattern as well. And I do feel that that is where Mickey Friesen comes into his own, just like Togo Hisada comes into his own. Is under threat from James Barry today, but Barry isn't attacking yet. And I wonder, even with the fastest lap, can he attack?
I think James Barry is a very calculated driver, as Dylan Freckleton now sets the fastest lap of the race then, as it was actually, it's going to count as both of them have the fast. Have you ever seen that? Two drivers share the fastest lap of the race?
Never. And in fact, on my timing screen, it's an 11.848 for Barry and 11.847 for Freckleton. Absolutely tied. I can't remember the last time I've seen that. We see it in qualifying, Jake. You ever seen it in a race? Never.
No, I haven't, and that's why our graphics gone double purple on the screen there on the left-hand side. It's not a bug, it's legitimately how they go. Gorgiano looking at 24th position now. This is Javier Garcia, who's not going to leave much room there at Paddock Hill, but he's going to have to yield, and this might be a second one. Aaron Blair trying to work down through. Atlee in red here right now. A Blair running through turn 2 and back down the hill over towards Graham Hill bend at turn number 3. But for Javier Garcia, it's a case of 2 places lost. Was a gain of 8, now just a gain of 6.
But at the same time, he just showed Ackerman, despite Ackerman's about 10 places up the road, that you can take it side by side through those corners. You can look for those moves, because he was able to fight this. And here they go, side by side.
Wow, what a lunge! Druid's corner, he'd been setting that up for the first half of the race, and finally when he gets a chance on Togo Hisada, he pounces. James Barry is such a thinking driver when it comes to racing. We talk about that when you've got to really work in a drafting car like the Radicals that you see on iRacing, but James Barry to the front, and Togo is not going to sit down lightly and wait for it. Togo wants to pogo.
Now remember, Togo likes to break late. We talked about it. Gunnar Friescher, fastest lap of the race in an 11.844 now. But this is where Hisada's got to be it smart. He knows how to use his downforce. He can go around the outside so many times. He knows how to go around the outside of so many of these corners. He could be setting himself up, but he also knows he just has to match it. And I feel this might be the weakness with Hisada from the last 2 seasons. Yes, he can attack, but when he's following someone, it's almost like the Mercedes dominance era at Monza. There's not a lot they could do. Friesen trying to look for a move on Ackerman, and I think he's going to get it done in Druids.
It's single file. That's not Druids. That is, of course, the Sheens curve. So very tough place to go too wide to make it happen. And just like that, Bjorn Ackerman losing out, but he'll get a good run on the exit here of the clearways and the Jim Clark curve, and now we'll have this fantastic run along the front stretch here and over towards Paddock Hill Bend once again. Close once more, but Mickey Friesen has it all covered and decides, you know what, I can fly on through. There are no dramas about that. At the end of this lap, we will be at half distance in this race, and James Barry has almost broken the second out there in the front. It's between 8 and 9 tenths, which indicates to me that Togo's got a car that loves working when it's out there on its own. You put it in dirty air, it doesn't. Mike Rasmus under pressure right now. That is Jean-Francois Boscus that he's just lost the place to.
He's +6 for the day. He was +7 for the day, but Mike's going to have to just work a little bit more there. A little bit of a mistake coming out of the corners. It's Muller, actually.
Yeah, so this is exactly the opposite here. So it's not Boscus has gone through, it's Rasmus trying to attack and find a way through. This is what happened to Ryan Turcotte then, and this is going down the hill and in towards that section. Yep, was caught up in the incident with Andrew Dixon and Jason Clapper, so another beneficiary of the retirement. And when you're on the outside like that, it's always very tough, especially when you're trying to run a mock-up 1991 Jordan livery.
Well, I don't think those Jordan cars in 91 even had the power to try and go around the outside, let alone the downforce. But then again, at Hawthorne, it's a corner that you really can just send it in wide. It's surprising how wide you can go with that corner around there for those drivers. As now we've lost Mike Ramos. Let's continue on with Bjorn Ackerman, though, still trying to battle Mickey Friesen. But I feel like he's struggling as well. Some of these drivers are not comfortable following other cars today, it seems like, Jake.
No, they're not. Gord Janot losing out. That's Aaron Blair around the outside. So the Canadian here is going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Once more, Aaron Blair has it covered. Misses the apex there through Paddock Hill. And that's going to create a wonderful line to attack at Druids. You could have seen the sparks as they went over the curve on the outside of the corner. But again, not quite close enough to go and manufacture that pass. It's tough out there at the moment, but the closest battle in your top 10 suddenly is Connor Levy, number 26 on the car, indicates 26th best iRating in the field. If you're just looking at pure iRating numbers, this is a big strength of field day right now for Connor Levy.
Strength of field of 3,622. The top 10 are all drivers with single digits, which mean they're in the top 10 of iRating. Number 10 is the number 11 car, Daniel Gallis, and number 8 is the number 26. You've got to think about that. There are 32 cars of varying iRating from 7K all the way down to 2.6K for one of the last drivers. And this is Levy really just showing that my iRating is not what I do. And it's like Barry West, my driving is still having a lot of fun.
You got to give some credit here to Barry West's setup right now, because every time he has to shift a gear, the camera shakes as if he's shaking to go up the gearbox into an extra gear, running in virtual reality as he goes through each and every corner. That gives you that little extra piece of realism that you like, which is almost like watching an Ayrton Senna camera shot through Monaco.
Well, we've had a moment with Carter Lundy as well. Carter Lundy was having a battle. And no, he's not having any battle. He actually just lost it on his own, coming through Hawthorne Bend. He took too much of the curb. He spun out. He has lost a lot of positions. He's down in ninth. Such a rare mistake there. Yeah, no, it was the Hawthorne.
No, I'm looking around. He's had a second spin at the Sheens curve. So if he's had one there, it's Sheens curve where Carter Lundy has gone wrong and has looked to try and fight himself back. Now down into ninth position and trying to work on through. It's also worth noting that there's been a drop for Mike Rasmus. So that is out of the top 20 and it's going to be a ways back now for Mike in terms of this race. Running the classic team players special that you see so often with Canadian and America's drivers. There is troubles, and we've also got troubles for Isabel Matthews, and she's got the black and orange mechanical flag. She's had an issue and she's out.
Just a few drivers here. This is Isabel Matthews. Let's see what happened to Isabel as they come through, trying to check up and trying to get around an incident, and that car, yet there was some space there, but the gap just started to close a little bit, and it was just a wheel rub. And they started going each other a lot of spin, and I think, yeah, there is a wheel missing. That's not a graphical bug. That is actually the wheel gone. 3 wheels on her wagon is not what you want to see.
Andrew Dixon down into the pits as well as Mickey Friesen eyes up a top 10 position and is trying to eye it up pretty quickly here as we sit with 12 laps to go in this race. Friesen looking at Daniel Gallis just in front. Gallis takes the defensive line to the middle of the road in towards the opening corner. Friesen all the way to the outside, completely misses the apex going through. It's a corner that just wants to throw you away. You're effectively, when you're going through the opening section of track at Brands Hatch, you are heading all the way over to the likes of Falcon Road each and every single time, and you wish you weren't.
No, you wish you were kind of a little bit more closer, and that's why they've got that AstroTurf there to just allow the driver to just get a little bit more speed and a little bit more momentum, because that momentum will wash them wider and wider and wider. It's almost like the sand trap has got a magnet there as Friesen continues on. Here's what happened to Carter Lundy. I was incorrect. It was Sheens. I'm getting my corners mixed up here, taking too much of that inside curve, something you rarely see. But when you're driving these cars so low because of that ground effect downforce, you're going to expect that at some point. These drivers taking a little bit calmer, not having to be too aggressive. And meanwhile, Kartik Pai, this is our second of 3 battles in the top 10, trying to get by Connor Levy for another time.
Yeah, and this will be Connor Levy holding well, +2 for the day. Timothy Reed inside your top 10 is your biggest mover, +5 out there. Jamie Wilson overall your biggest mover, +7. They go by Xavier Garcia, who's just come out of the pits, and that's a pick straight down the inside at Druids. Kartik Pai sees the opportunity, and Connor Levy's got nothing for it to the outside. Tries Carter Lundy, trying to cross over, gets a great run off of the exit as they both hold each other up. Over then to turn 4 at Surtees. Carter Lundy gains the place.
A brilliant move there, really just picked up the moment there that he needed. Otherwise, he would have just been waiting. He just saw that moment and just decided, I'm going to take it. And I wouldn't be surprised when he's just a small car on a small island in the channel. You've really got to just make yourself stand out, and that's exactly what he did there as Cartolundi goes up. And for Levy, it's not looking good. For Philip Kuhnhardt, it's really begging now for this traffic to work with him, just like we just saw there against Kartik Pai.
Well, he's getting that because for Kurt Clapper and Bruno Araya, who are out there at the moment, Araya's 10 laps down, Kurt Clapper in 24th, 1 lap down. Philip Kuhnhardt got exactly what he wanted against Cherno Freaksha, a driver who is a living legend, who's got 3 times as many wins as the next driver out there. And that was in an era where from about 2014 to about 2018, nobody could beat him in a race. 6 years of pure dominance in Lotus 79 racing. It's been a lot tougher as the years have gone on for Cherno Freaksha here in 2025. But at the moment, he's still proving that he is elite. And he's got Togo off the road at Westfield Bend, all on his own. And just like that, the best racer in the race has gone off. And secondarily, that will be a retirement.
And I wonder if he's had more moments there, if he's had some damage, because the car reacted very interesting the second time there. He took way too much of that inside curve going through Westfield, something you don't normally see. As he went to get going again, did he just lose it again, or was it just the grass? Here's Togo Hisada. We're seeing the onboard right now. He's going to come down the Hawthorne Hill. Into Hawthorne Hill go with not a lot of problem, but if he just takes a bit too much coming through Westfield, you can see it's not a case of clipping. Yeah, he's on the grass. He's lit up the tires a little bit with grass, losing a bit of grip, try to carry the speed, and the rear says no, tries to correct it, spins out, and unfortunately still a lot of debris on those tires, just caused him to have not as much grip as he was expecting.
One thing you can say about Togo Hisada is that he traditionally likes a car that is very pliable in the rear, and by that, I mean, he likes a car with a lot of feel, and so that he can wrestle it into the corner and try and save it. There's a spin in front of Dylan Freckleton. That's Ryan Turcotte, and Freckleton's just avoided dramas in second. This group's now going to join the scene and avoid the stranded Turcotte there in the middle of the road. Freaksha and Kuhnhardt now fighting for the last spot on the podium, and that could have been disaster for the pair.
Could have been disaster. It was almost disaster for Freckleton. I had my hands in my mouth for a moment. Cartolundi doesn't have to worry about that. Neither does Kartik Pai. The scene is clear now for them as they continue on by. James Barry now has a 5.5 second lead to Dylan Freckleton. Freckleton's only matching. He's not beating those times, so he's just probably going to have to resign himself to this with 8 to go. But Lundy still looking for opportunity. It's very brave to look for it through Clark. I was surprised at that. He may get the run, or he may have just overcooked it here, Jake.
Well, he's got 7 laps, or 8 laps, sorry, to figure out where he goes, and he'll think Paddock Hill Bend. He gets right up underneath, under braking, figuring out where he's got to go to make that pass, and the answer is Druid's turn 2 is just covered off, nowhere to go to make that happen, but you are setting up turn 3 at Graham Hill Bend. You're setting up turn 4 when you get to Surtees Corner, named after champions-elect. Of course, it turns 3 and 4, and then over Hawthorne Hill, another one, and now you're looking at Cartolundi. It's all about the drive off of the exit here, and now for the Canadian, it's about, can I get to the inside? Answer is overwhelmingly yes. Kartik Pai's going to have nothing to fight with, and on the outside, gives it up.
Gives it up, and I thought he may have been able to do an over-under there, but no, unable to, and Lundy will go back to 6th. I say back, he started 6th. He is back in 6th place, and that's fantastic for him. Having Mosquera having a crash with Hans Sommer in the background as well. He's had to take a tow, so we're down to 21 drivers from the 32 on the lead lap. It does feel like an old school F1 race with drivers having issues and mechanical problems out there. But now this is Pai's time to attack. 2 free battles actually in the top 10, Jake. We've got that battle for P3. We've got this battle. We've got Daniel Gallagher still trying to hold off on Mickey Friesen.
I've just seen an off-screen replay of what happened to Javi Mosquera. It is a frightening crash at Paddock Hill Bend, which has gone and taken Mosquera out. There was a lot of contact in that one with Hans Sommer, so keep that in mind as Gord Janot now into the top 20 with that incident will eye up Aaron Blair, and Aaron Blair eyes on Matthew Cochran for a place.
And maybe he can get this because this is all about points, and they'll gain a spot when they go past the line due to Javier Mosquera. They actually get that already as they come on by. Gorgonop looking for what he can. He doesn't have to worry too much in the background, and that's not a lap car ahead. They are all still battling as well. Matthew Cockerham just having a slow exit there out of Paddock Hill. I wonder if he was just struggling with the H-pattern there for a moment because he brought in Blair, and a second behind them, that car at the back, that's the leader. That's James Barry.
And with almost a 6-second gap at the front of the field, he does not want to be getting tangled up with these three drivers. They have every right to battle for their positions, and it's worth noting that we don't have Formula Blue flags here. We have the sports car style blue flags here in iRacing, which means advisory, not mandatory. Oh, big off. Aaron Blair hard into the barriers there, completely destroys the left-hand side.
Well, he wanted to turn in for the corner, and there was no turning in there from Cockerham there, and it just looked like a little bit of a moment as Cockerham tried to turn in late. Just caused a big moment there for Blair, and that will allow Gord to make another spot up here. Let's look at this replay. A very dirty head thing there. Needs the visor clear. He starts to turn in. He was expecting that car to turn in. It wasn't, and it was just one of those unfortunate moments. Heavy damage and heavy hit there. He was just a missile for that barrier.
Yeah, and it's a case of everyone wants to try and work together. They'd say they'd all go Dutch, but at this stage, no Dutch drivers in this field, so they don't have the luxury of doing that. Mickey Friesen in 10th position will now look at 9th place in front, which is Daniel Gallis, and then Connor Levy in 8th. And in front of that, Kartik Pai and Carter Lundy, 7th and 6th. At this stage, but Lundy is pulling away, and this is all going on half a minute off of your race lead. The battle just behind them, 11th and 12th, is more interesting right now because Alyssa Merrill, she's trying to find a way through on Bjorn Ackermann.
Yeah, and they do have some clear track ahead of them, so lap traffic won't be there to try and make a pick move. And it's interesting when you think about this stage of the race, how it turns almost into a multi-class race because you've got lap cars and you don't want to use them for a pick. But sometimes the smartest move is to use those slower or to use those off the pace to just get that pick. And that is what she might be looking for. But Ackermann is pretty smart. He may be -4 for the day, but that is not a sign of a bad race. That is just a sign of the driver really getting the better of him. He's a driver that is well respected in the series and in iRacing. It's got to be a tough one for Merrill to get by.
And remember, Bjorn Ackermann as well is a former F2 champion in this series, so has gone through the system, has learned, Alyssa Merrill, straight off the road, Westfield Bend. She will drop a couple places for that, and it is as simple as grab grass on the entry and just not have the car settle through the middle. You need the aerodynamic grip to go through the middle of the corner, and you don't have much. You've just got the flat on the front and what you can do with the touring sections of the car underneath to give you every single bit of pace you can. Mickey Friesen now staring at the back of Daniel Gallis.
And Gallis got held up there from a lap Kurt Clapper, who had nowhere to let him go mid-corner at Clark, so he had to just wait there, and Friesen, it allows him to get up there. Bjorn Ackermann, it's also going to be catching up as well right behind them, so this is going to be an explosive finish here with 4 to go. Friesen's looking for one of his best performances in the Lotus 79s today, and I wonder if he does have one more trick up his sleeve, driving this Nissan GTP-inspired livery. I don't think a Nissan would be driving these cars around Brands Hatch, but I'm pretty sure he will need all that downforce he can get.
Yeah, every single amount is tantamount to, can I find a position here or can I find a position there? With 3.5 laps for Mickey Friesen to get this done. Daniel Gallis, this is showing why Daniel Gallis is a top 10 driver in the championship. Might not have the overall pace, but consistency. That's where Daniel Gallis has his strength suit.
A man once said it's not about the fastest lap time, it's about the fastest stint time. And that's what Gallis is doing. He's putting in lap after lap after lap. That is consistent. And it's high 12s, low 13s. And he just threw his fastest lap at the race at 12.600. 3/10 faster than Mickey Friesen. Really now starting to work. And you got to feel he might be able to catch up to the back of Connor Levy here. That would be a blessing because then he'll get a tow and that would be able to keep Friesen behind him. That is something you may need to look at in the next lap.
That is what we call emphasis for Daniel Gallis right now. Emphasis on trying to hold himself to account and say, what can I do? They've also got Bjorn Ackermann back there and Julius Müller trying to keep themselves in position here with just a handful of laps left. It's been a tough race, and the one driver I want to give credit to is the driver in second, Dylan Freckleton. We've only said he's been close all day long, but he has driven a wonderful race out there.
He had a bad start. He made up for it. He didn't lose any positions on that bad stop, but he had to make up for it. And I tell you what, he has driven so well for a man that's not gained a position today. He's been fantastic. This man gained 2 positions, and he is just pushing on. There's Freckleton. I always say, you always know who Dylan is, because the Isle of Man native always drives that lightning purple TVI-inspired livery, and it is just one that, well, you get looked at, it's very shocking. And what's not shocking is Jamie Wilson trying to make some more moves as he's battling Matthew Cockerham.
Yeah, and if this can be the one move that gets it done, you start wondering now for Jamie Wilson whether this is going to be a case of attack or defend. That's Journo Fritzsche there just behind trying to navigate through, and Matthew Cockerham will realise that, use it to an advantage, slows down on the outside there does Jamie Wilson, and has nothing to do but see the likes of Gord Janot, who is there just behind. Your last lap of the race starts. Dylan Freckleton, never say die attitude for him, because he's just set at the fastest lap of the race with a 1:11 flat. Now trying to hunt down James Barry, took a full second out of him on that last lap, but that's a bit too little, too late, unless James Barry feels the pressure in these final stages. This has been a race that when you sat down and looked at it, it was all about the move at Druids. That completely set up James Barry's race to take the race lead. Togo left to chase. Togo demolishing his car, first with a spin over at Westfield Bend that he goes through, and then over at the Sheens curve, which has caught out so many drivers here today. Just 2 corners remain for a driver who is starting to build up his sim racing resume in a way that will start making people take notice. James Barry will round himself through the Jim Clark curve, and it's a brilliant Barry at his best, winning at Brands Hatch.
Barry said he's going to do it anyway, and he takes the victory. He doesn't get the fastest lap. That belongs to Dylan Freckleton at the moment. What a drive for Freckleton. And Fritzsche will get that P3. It's been a lot of traffic chaos in the background for him and Kuhnhardt there. Almost did Kuhnhardt have a chance to make an overtake, but the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. Timothy Reed will be in 5th with Lundy in 6th. This is the last battle. Is there a last dance there for Mickey Friesen and Daniel Gallant? They'll have 1 lap car to get by. The lap car will just yield there. It will be Clark's one more time. In fact, the lap car taking the corner, and this could be a bit of a moment because that allows Gallant to get the toe. He will hold on to that 9th, but Mickey Friesen's got to be happy with a P10 today. Bjorn Ackermann will come home in 11th behind him.
Yeah, you take those, a top 10 finish you will, but 9th would have been a little bit nicer than that as the last few cars start to work themselves through. The last car on the leading lap will be Barry West, heading to the line in 16th position, just behind Hans Sommer, who was caught up in that incident earlier on in the racing action. But a good finish for Barry West then after dealing with the issues over the last couple of weeks. Let's get through our official classified results then here on iRacing, the Global Sim Racing channel, from action here at Brands Hatch. James Barry indicates that he wants to make a championship charge, and with a victory here today may have just given himself every option to move up to the championship lead. Dylan Freckleton will finish 2nd, and Journo Fritzsche will round out your podium. The legend that he is, he used to be a 9K iRacing driver. Philip Kuhnhardt will finish off in 4th, with Timothy Reed in 5th. It follows Carter Lundy's up and down day in 6th, ahead of Kartik Pai, with Connor Levy in 8th position, ahead of Daniel Gallis, who was able to stave off the hard charge of Mickey Friesen in 10th.
We get to P11, and it will be Bjorn Ackermann, who just almost had a chance to get in that first page, but down 4 today. And Julius Müller will be up 4 into 12. John Francis Bosco, as we saw, will finish in 13th. And Alyssa Merrill started and finished in 14th. Hans Sommer will be 15th, and 6th places for Barry West in 16th. 7th for Matei and Cockerham, as they're both a lap down in 17th and 18th, respectively. Gord Janot will be in 19th. Jamie Wilson also a lap down in 20th.
And you're now starting to hit those drivers who are a lap down or multiple. You start getting to the retirees as well. Kurt Clapper, 1 lap down. Andrew Dixon, 2. Xavier Garcia at 4 laps down with Ryan Turcott. Aaron Blair, we saw the dramatic end to his race there. 7 laps adrift. Ben Summers was able to get back out and going, but 7 laps down. And then the Persona 3 car of Javier Mosquera finding out of the race. Togo Hesada, that's the big one that you look at and say, championship is very much alive. That's both drop rounds now used for Togo Hesada, and has to use the round scored over at a wonderful racetrack that was the Circuit de Nevers-Mangicourt. Bruno Araya and Reich Rasmus out of the race, and I'll just run through the final 2 as well. Isabel Matthews, she didn't get the day that she wanted, and Jason Clapper. It's not often that you get a driver like Jason Clapper losing a position over the course of the race, but by being first retiree, that is what happens to Jason. So that pretty much rounds out racing action here, but what a wonderful display of racing that we've had. We're going to take this chance to talk with some of our drivers. I think no better place to start than with James Barry, who has won this race and did so beautifully. James, I think we have to start by talking about the pass, getting it done at Druids against Togo Hesada. That completely set up the second half of your race.
Yeah, I had to go for it at that point. I spent, good amount of time behind him, and just in a couple of laps before that happened, I could feel my tyres starting to go, and I thought, this dirty air is not doing me any good. I knew I had more pace than him, but the dirty air really doesn't help. So as soon as he made that mistake, and I raced against him yesterday in the Saturday race that we sometimes do, and the exact same thing happened. He made a mistake turn 1, and I centered up the inside turn 2 and got the job done. And this time, it was really close into turn 2. I thought we were going to make one contact at one point, but fortunately it didn't happen, and that was the race right there, wasn't it?
Experience certainly paying off, especially with Togo Hesada running into troubles behind you, which opened up that gap and give you that chance to go through. Still, a lot of traffic in the second half of that race. I saw you make a comment in the server that you were actually quite happy about the way that the blue flag systems were playing there for you. So talk us about how difficult the lap traffic is around a circuit as congested as Brands Hatch is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. It's never going to be, because in iRacing, the blue flags are apparently informative and not mandatory. So whenever people do pull over, I do like to, give some appreciation for that. Some of them I did have to send it a little bit. But ultimately, people kind of realize at some point that there's no point trying to stay in front of me. So yeah, thank you to everyone who pulled over.
If my math is correct, which it rarely is, you may have just taken the championship lead by about 10 points heading to the Hungaroring. Does that change your mentality, or are you approaching this every single time the same way?
The thing is, this is my first season in really taking this series seriously, so I don't know where I'm going to be at. In the future races. The setup that I found for this track was amazing, and I have to shout out Togo, because I kind of I've been using his setups as a baseline, and that's really helping invite people to the community to have those baseline setups. But I did some experimentation and found a super setup this week, so it remains to be seen if I can pull it off in the future weeks. So I don't know at this point.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with the second half of the season. James Barry picking up the win today here from Brands Hatch, a win on home soil, which always gives you an extra virtual 0.2 of a second. And I suppose if you're from the Isle of Man, you get 0.1 of a second. Craig King has wandered down and found Dylan Freckleton.
Yeah, I got Dylan Freckleton, the man with the fastest lap. He went purple in the purple TVR, but Dylan, we're going to have to talk about that start, I'm afraid. Got bogged down at the start, and it looked like that was a little bit of a moment that cost you possibly a chance for that battle at the lead.
Yeah, maybe. So I got quite a bit of wheel spin, so that was a little bit scary, because I was sort of going sideways across the track at one point. But yeah, no, we got through it, and I'm not overly bothered. I think I didn't have the pace that James had over the whole race. Obviously, I got the fastest lap, which is nice. I'll take that. But yeah, I think he was a bit quicker, and to be honest, I think I was quite happy to settle in third at the start. I'm normally a little bit slower at the start of the race. Takes me a little while to get warmed up. That's probably where it went wrong last week at Portland, where I was sat in second in the middle of the sort of train of cars. Went off because I was pushing too hard. Today I was able to just sort of sit in third, and yeah, just settle into the race a little bit easier, and that meant that at the end I was a bit more comfortable, able to push a little bit more.
So, of course, we look at that because it was just a race that you were able to just keep going, cool, calm, and collected there into P2 in P3. Then came the moment with Togo. Did that change anything, or were you just happy to know you had a nice buffer to Gernot, you had a nice buffer ahead to Barry, there was no need to do anything, you were just bubble racing?
I was pushing. I was trying to push. I was trying to see if I could set fastest laps just to try and keep a bit of pressure on. But I knew it was going to take a mistake from James, and obviously he didn't make one. So yeah, fair play to him.
So the track has caused a lot of issues for these drivers today, and not everyone is clean. What do you think is the main reason for that? Because it looked like more than just Hosada was getting caught out today.
Yeah. Well, there was a backmarker went off right in front of me at Westfield, the really fast one. That was a little bit scary, but all good. I think particularly around the back section, the amount of commitment that you have to have through there, and I think with the setup that you're running, it's quite high downforce, so you're carrying a lot of speed through that, and it's really easy to just, you get a little slide on the rear, it's really hard to save that. And I think that's what happened to Togo, it's what happened to a few other people as well.
Well, I know you weren't here for the start of the season. 3 races now, another first podium for you. Looks like you might be starting to creep into that top 10 as we get to Hungaroring. That goes from an old classic F1 track to a new track. Got any feelings or vibes going into that race next week?
Yeah, I like that one. Again, it's a high downforce one, which seems to suit me a lot better. And yeah, I quite like the Hungaroring. It's a nice little track.
Well, we hope to look forward to seeing you there. The man in purple going purple again, Jake. Fastest lap for Dylan Freckleton, get to P2, and very good driving. And I believe you have the last man on the podium beside you. I think you're alongside Gernot Friescher.
Yeah, Journo, it's a great return to form for you after what happened last time out in Portland. A case of finding yourself on the podium, getting good results. How important has it been to try and find some consistency over the first part of this season, running the 4 races you have so far?
Hi, Jake. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of Portland. That was a really bad one. Although I don't want to be disrespectful to all the others because they were just quicker than me. But yeah, this week was much better, and yeah, it's a track that I know quite well. So my pace usually is quite good at Brands Hatch, and yeah, I had a good baseline setup from last time, and yeah, in hindsight, it's been a good race.
You were certainly kept honest by your Diach friend behind you, Philip Kunhart there. So in terms of this race, I don't think you really had a chance to sit down and settle and feel comfortable at any point, knowing that he was pushing that hard behind you?
No, not at all. Philip was crazy quick, so yeah, he kept pushing me all race long, and he didn't really make a mistake. Just one small maybe in the finish, so that gave me a little bit of breathing room. Otherwise, I had to really go for it.
We're at the halfway stage of the season. You've used 2 drop rounds. Togo's used 2 drop rounds. James has used 2 drop rounds. This championship's closing up for everybody. Do you believe that you have a realistic shot at this championship when the Hungaroring comes around next week?
I'm not very optimistic. I'm quite happy if I'm really close to the top, but yeah, I don't see myself really winning many races. So I think Togo and James are the favorites right now. James has improved a lot compared to last season, and I think he still has potential. So that will be a tough one, tough battle, I guess, between those two most probably.
Well, we will hope to see you battling, and I think from everyone who's watched you over the career, it would be nice to see the living legend Gernot Friescher up there fighting for a championship. Gernot Friescher joining us and picking up a 3rd place finish here today. But that, Craig, gives you a great insight into what we have going on with this amazing racing. A championship that looked like it was complete runaway as we walked into this one, now suddenly is pretty much as wide open as it can possibly be. And we head to the Hungaroring in 7 days, August 3rd. That's going to be a circuit that has a lot of similarity to here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's a modern day track nowadays, and it does have a lot of tough places to make overtake, and it is that high downforce that we saw Dylan Freckleton was talking about. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes a move. Last time I was at Hungaroring, Togo Hosada made a move around the outside of the penultimate corner to get a P2 in the race. So do look for that next week if Hosada has to go for some late moves, but it could be him. However, the opera singer hasn't sung yet. We've only halfway through the championship.
We are. So there is a whole nother half of the season left to go. And I tell you what, I can't wait. Craig can't wait. Everybody here at the Global Sim Racing channel can't wait. It's been a wonderful job to get this show to you from the likes of Christian Deploy, who's been on the cameras for us, provided by Dougie Beard. But here, as a part of Racing Action with iRacing, you're never too far away from great racing that brings itself to life. But there is so much more with this championship. And if you are watching this for the first time, you've got a second half of the season that is poised right on a precipice. We talk about moments when championships get brought into life. It is quite simple. James Barry's pass at Druids at turn 2 is a critical juncture of this season. He makes the pass at Druids. Togo Hisada retires. James Barry takes the championship lead. And opportunities now arise for everybody as the Hungaroring welcomes in the second half of the season.
This is iRacing.